Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our sustainability lecture for today. My name is Ria Sumagang, and I'm your host. And together with me is Professor Kathleen Aviso. Today, we have another interesting and very relevant topic on human-centric technological innovations for sustainable food production. But before we begin, let us start with an opening prayer.
Let me be the change I want to see, to do with strength and wisdom all that needs to be done, and become the hope that I can be. Set me free from my fears and hesitation. Granted courage and humility. Fill me with spirit to face the challenge and start the change I long to see. Today I start the change I want to see. Even if I'm not the light, I can be a spark in faith, service, and communion. Let us start the change we want to see, the change that begins in me. Today I start the change I want to see.
Even if I'm not the light,
Even if I'm not the light, I can be the spark. Faith, service, and communion. Let us start the change we want to see, the change that begins in me.
Jesus in us.
Jesus in
Again, welcome everyone to this month's LaSalle Sustainability Lecture. To give us a background on why we are doing these monthly lectures, I will call on the Vice President for Research and Innovation of the LaSalle University, Professor Raymond Tan.
Good day, everyone. I'm Professor Raymond Tan. I'm the Vice President for Research and Innovation of De La Salle University in Manila, Philippines. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this edition of the 2024 Sustainability Lecture Series. De La Salle University is a member of a network of Lasallian higher education institutions known as IALU. IALU has member institutions in 5 different continents: the Americas, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and Eastern Asia. De La Salle University is a private, comprehensive Catholic university initially founded as De La Salle College in 1911. We are now 1 year removed from our Golden Jubilee as a university and have seen extensive growth in research productivity over the past 50 years. We are ranked first among Philippine institutions in terms of research output in this decade to date. We are the most heavily funded private institution in the country and have seen a 7-fold increase in research output over the past 10 years. As a result, we are ranked by the Times Higher Education World University Rankings of research-intensive institutions, and are also top ranked in the following subject areas: physical sciences, social sciences, engineering, computer science, business and economics, education, and arts and humanities. The Sustainability Lecture Series is inspired by two documents that were published in 2015. Number one, intended for the Catholic world, was Pope Francis's Laudato Si encyclical. Number two were the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, intended for the secular world. But what is interesting to note is that these two documents have a strong intersection in seeking sustainable development for the entire planet. And these provide the basis for the series of lectures that we've held since 2021. The Sustainability Lecture Series is organized by a core group, initially consisting of Professor Dr. Kathleen Aviso, the current Dean of the Gokongwei College of Engineering, Dr. Carmelita Quebenco, the former President and current Chancellor Emeritus of De La Salle University, Professor Dr. Alvin Colaba, the Director of the Center for Engineering and Sustainable Development Research, which is the organizational host of this lecture series. And we were joined last year with the support of Professor Dr. Aristotle Obando, current Assistant Dean for Research, and former PhD student, Dr. Maria Victoria Migo Sumaga, and of course, yours truly. Since January 2021, we've dealt with diverse topics in sustainable development, holding lectures online on various topics at the last Wednesday of each month. The lectures have been recorded for the most part and are available in a dedicated YouTube channel. The lectures have been viewed thousands of times by different viewers asynchronously, in addition to the live audience that we normally have. And of course, the resource persons are drawn from the global IALU network, and we've had speakers from different continents talking about global and local concerns. As we begin a new year, we look at what lies ahead. And first and foremost, we've decided to partner with a newly formed University Sustainability Office at DLSU, which will provide logistical support when we look at new issues, when we consider new formats, including hybrid lectures with a live audience inside the university. So these are what are in store for us in the coming year. Thank you and good day. Good day.
Thank you, Professor Tan, for that background on our monthly LaSalle Sustainability Lecture. Today is a very interesting episode because we have a speaker who will talk about innovations like the Krabby Fire and Alimango that empowers farmers to produce more with fewer resources and to enhance productivity. And this is a very special episode for me because I know the speaker way back during our high school days, Professor or Dr. Camille. We call her Camille, and I've known her to be a poised and charming lady ever since. And today I watch her YouTube videos in her channel, Shiensa, and it's really encouraging to be a woman in STEM today because of people like Dr. Camille. And to introduce her formally, I would read her biographical sketch. Dr. Chana Camille Vince Cruz Abeledo is a scientist, educator, science communicator, and entrepreneur from the Philippines. Her research team focuses on developing innovative solutions benefiting fishers and farmers by combining molecular biology, genetics, ecology, big data, machine learning, wow, and information technology. Notably, her research on Celia species in the Philippines, blending genetics and ecology, earned her the DOST Pursued's 2015 Outstanding Research and Development Award for Emerging Technologies. Congratulations! Their research has culminated in the creation of crab technology Innovations, an aquatech startup where Dr. Vince Cruz Abeledo aims to commercialize technologies, enhancing the efficiency of mangrove crab farms in the Philippines, promoting sustainability. As a faculty of the Department of Biology at De La Salle University, Dr. Vince Cruz Abeledo has tirelessly promoted the importance of science education. Her academic journey includes a Bachelor of Science in Molecular Biology and Biotechnology and a Master's in Environment and Natural Resources Management from the University of the Philippines and a PhD in Biology from De La Salle University with a Fulbright dissertation grant at the University of Washington. Recognized as a 2021 Outstanding Asian Science Diplomat and one of 2021's Southeast Asia Women Science Leaders, Dr. Vince Cruz Abeledo actively engages in citizen science projects addressing climate change impacts on coastal communities and assessing plastic pollution in diverse ecosystems. Her team's community initiatives earned her the 2023 Lasallian Pillar of Excellence Award in Community Engagement. She is also the creator of the science channel Shiensa, reflecting her commitment to bridging the communication gap between the scientific community and society. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speaker, Dr. Chona Camille Vince Cruz Abeledo.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that generous introduction. So I'm very excited and also very nervous to be here. And there you go. So, okay, I hope everybody can see my screen. Um, Thank you so much for the generous introduction and also for this opportunity to advocate for human-centric technological innovations, especially given how the people who produce food in our country are among the poorest of the poor. As the Lorax in the universe of Dr. Seuss speaks for the trees, I am very much honored to advocate for sustainable food production for our fishers and farmers. Um, Pero ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng sustainability para sa isang mangingisda? What does sustainability mean for a fisher? From experience, talking about sustainability among fishers and farmers in the Philippines is challenging, especially because 26.2% of Filipino farmers and 34% of fishers live below the poverty line, making immediate economic survival their primary concern over long-term sustainability goals. Why worry about the environment when you're still so much worried about the food that you're going to eat for the day? But this perspective of mine right now, though backed with data, did not come naturally. As a scientist, I started out as a very classic nerd, I guess. My journey began with this fascination with techniques, with the possibilities of using molecular biology on changing the world. I was more focused on optimizing laboratory procedures and analyses. And the thought of having to communicate, to talk to immerse myself in the lives of the people that I wish to help was something that was so far away from my mind. This perspective, um, of course, you would be hard pressed to get me to admit this back then. After all, my main study was actually focused on helping farmers, specifically helping farmers combat the abaca bunchy top virus, which was the most damaging of three known diseases affecting abaca in the Philippines. Abaca bunchy top virus, or ABTV, spreads rapidly and it causes severe stunting and bushiness in infected plants. And this virus has devastated the fiber industry with losses estimated at 20 to 40% of abaca production annually. And our project's goal back then, as funded by the Fiber Industry Development Authority, was to develop a virus-resistant abaca cultivar using genetic engineering. And since I graduated from college, I guess I'm also happy to report that our team successfully designed a gene combination to confer immunity against the disease. And my part in the project was in the optimization of the biolistics or the gene gun method to introduce these genes into the abaca tissue. So what you're seeing right now are the abaca tissue that we were growing using tissue culture, and the blue parts indicate the portions of the tissue that were successfully transformed. However, despite our hard work, um, despite the rigorous verification process that the product went through, and of course, the millions of pesos in investment, our ABTV immune abaca variety remains unused by Filipino farmers. Genetic engineering, back then and until now, faces intense condemnation from various groups, which includes the academe and activist organizations. And farmers who were willing to try the technology are often vilified, they're often scorned, and some of them are even subjected to acts of terrorism, with their hard-earned crops being uprooted or burned. Notably, this photo was taken in August 2013. Activists destroyed a field trial of golden rice in Camarines Sur, Philippines, highlighting the severe resistance and attacks on GM crops in our country. So, genetic modification remains unaccepted, largely due to a lack of effective science communication and also the top-down approach in its implementation. Public skepticism is fueled by insufficient education on the safety and also on the benefits of GMOs, leading to misconceptions and fear. In fact, current studies show that only 37% of Filipinos are aware of genetically modified organisms, and among those, a significant portion harbors negative perceptions. Now, when it comes to the top-down approach, where decisions are made without engaging local communities, this results to the exacerbation of mistrust. Research indicates that inclusive and transparent dialogue can significantly improve public acceptance. Addressing these issues through better science communication and perhaps a participatory approach would be crucial for broader acceptance of genetic modification. Now, at that time, at 20 years old, I felt really uncertain about how to respond or what actions to take. So I made a rather literal escape to the mountains. Very classic UP, no? Opting to delve into ecology, I pursued a master's degree focused on natural resource management. I believed it crucial to explore existing natural systems that could be optimized for food production and to gain firsthand experience or firsthand knowledge of traditional agricultural practices. And so, to fulfill my academic requirements, I collaborated with an indigenous group known as the Eva Aitas of Bataan. It was a very memorable experience sparked by our coursework on degraded upland rehabilitation and management. However, my initial encounter with the community was very much scary. It was marked by a lot of tension, as many of the indigenous residents greeted me with suspicion. I didn't know what to do back then. They were pointing their spears and their arrows at me. And at one point, I really thought I was going to die. But I guess I can sort of understand their fears because their wariness stems from past experiences of what we call helicopter research, a term used to describe superficial and exploitative research practices. And this detached approach not only fails to delve into the complexities of whatever subject that we want to study, but it also leaves communities feeling used and objectified. Eventually, because I grew up in Bataan, I was a local technically, I was able to gain the acceptance of the local community, but the remoteness of Sitio Pita Bayan-Bayanan in Orion, Bataan made it very challenging to do the research that I had to do, which involved the regular monitoring of the area's environmental characteristics. So to address this, I constructed wooden frames for biodiversity surveys. I repurposed cans of milk, put holes at the bottom to measure water infiltration rates. We got numerous thermometers from local pharmacies, and we trained a team of citizen scientists from the local Sangguniang Kabataan. This is the youth group that's elected by the general public to help with the political leadership of the area. So this experience introduced me firsthand to the concepts of science communication and citizen science, even before I fully understood those terms. And then once our results were in, it was, I guess, undeniably one of the most difficult experiences of my life, is explaining to a council of elders why their current practices were unsustainable and also advocating for alternative methods. I really thought I was going to get speared again. However, because of my consistent engagement with the local community and involving their youth in data collection, I wasn't alone when I was presenting this data. And there were more voices that began to emerge and called for change. Ultimately, our efforts bore fruit. The Sangguniang Kabataan Chair that I collaborated with eventually ascended to become a councillor, a konsehal ng bayan, and he played a pivotal role in assisting the Eva Aitas in reclaiming ownership of their lands. Today, the community is engaged in local trade of various mango varieties, while the youth are actively managing a thriving community vegetable farm from the lands that you're seeing here, which used to be unproductive grasslands. So definitely a very fulfilling experience. Now, citizen science played a crucial role in helping the Eva Aitas accept scientific intervention by actively involving them in the research process. Because of this, we fostered trust. The local communities were empowered and they felt ownership over the outcomes of the research. Studies have shown that engaging communities in scientific endeavors not only enhances scientific literacy, but it also promotes a sense of ownership and stewardship over local resources. By incorporating the Eva Aitas, particularly the teenagers who were very curious about what I was doing in data collection and decision making, we facilitated a grassroots. I find that term funny because we were studying grasslands and yeah, we facilitated a grassroots approach to innovation, empowering them to understand the issues at hand and participating in finding solutions. So I really believe that this participatory approach is essential for fostering community buy-in and ensuring the long-term sustainability of our interventions. As a result, the Eva Aitas not only embraced scientific intervention, but also took ownership of their lands, figuratively and literally, and embarked on sustainable economic activities. This success underscores the importance of science communication and grassroots engagement in driving positive change within our communities. Now, eventually, I would be able to marry my interest in environmental science and my roots in molecular biology with my PhD when I studied the population genetics of mangrove crabs in the Philippines. Now, as a discipline, population genetics explores how genetic traits that are distributed within and between populations shed light on evolutionary processes. So our results using molecular markers called microsatellites, which are repeating sequences found in the genome of mangrove crabs, indicated an east-west population structure. So this means that if anything were to happen to just one of the mangrove crab populations along the West Philippine Sea, it can affect, even possibly cause the collapse of the other populations along the west coast of the Philippines. And these findings are our contribution in helping shape the policy of the management of the wild populations of alimango in the Philippines. Now, definitely a very delicious resource. But while I was doing data collection for my dissertation, the fishers and farmers that I worked with talked about another problem that they had, this time with species identification. Our country, as a biodiversity hotspot, has a lot of different species of plants and animals. And in the case of mangrove crabs, we have 3 of the 4 species of mangrove crabs. Now, this sounds like a good thing, except for our farmers, where only one of these 3 species are actually preferred by the market. Since they had overlapping ranges, meaning they coexist in the same locations, a lot of our fishers and mangrove crab farmers found it difficult to identify if the crablets that they caught or the crablets that they bought for fattening is the species preferred by the market. So what they would do is they would compensate for projected losses by over-harvesting from the mangrove forests, and then also overstocking their ponds, which is very expensive. It creates a lot of waste, and it also is harmful to the mangrove ecosystem because it stresses it out. So this generally creates a lose-lose scenario. So to help with this, with a combination of image analysis on thousands upon thousands of mangrove crab juveniles, grounded on DNA barcoding. So we actually acquired tissue from the juvenile crabs, extracted DNA from it, and amplified key markers in order to verify our image analysis, and then feeding the results of that image analysis to a convolutional neural network, which was the machine learning algorithm that we used. We have created the free mobile application called Crabifier that identifies the species of juvenile mangrove crabs with an accuracy of 92.4%. And since its launch in 2019, with support from our primary funding agency, which is DOSTP CAARD, the technology has since been deployed to the 7 mangrove crab producing regions of the Philippines. So it's currently being used by more than 200 farms in the Philippines, in Indonesia, and even as far as Australia. And our users report substantial 23.5% increases in income, coupled with a 12.5% reduction in resource use. And although we're still in the process of validating this, some local communities are also informing us that since they have lessened their harvesting of juvenile crabs, the populations are getting bigger again in their local mangrove forests. So those are the kinds of news that gets us excited. But beyond Crabifier, our mangrove crab growers have also reported devastating losses of 70 to 100%. All of the crablets that they bought died. When they purchase crablets and the crablets fail to adapt to the conditions of their ponds. So to help with this, we looked at existing databases for temperature, for salinity, and for pH of Philippine coasts. And then we matched them with the same conditions that you would find in the fish ponds where the crablets were being fattened. And this is to give us feedback that would allow fishermen to determine the best geographic source of crablets for their ponds. And from here, we created our dating app for crablets and crab ponds called Alinmango. This gives farmers suggestions on locations for crablet sources so that they can minimize mortality and also maximize growth. And given how climate change is now significantly changing the patterns of our oceans, alinmango can also help serve as or help provide information in terms of giving early warning systems to our aquaculture fishers, so that they would know if conditions are becoming really bad, which would result to losses in their farms. Now, with our existing data, we found no significant difference upon comparison of water characteristics in 3 locations in the Philippines, as far up as Bugay, Cagayan, Bataan, and then also as far south as Lanao del Norte, between alinmango projections and on-the-ground data. But we're not satisfied with that, no? So far, also, users have reported a 40 to 60% reduction in mortalities with alinmango, compared to the observed 70 to 100% mortality rate without it. But in our focus group discussions and interviews, we've observed that a lot of the coastal communities that we've worked with, uh, they often view the mangrove forests and our oceans primarily as sources of income. Again, we don't blame them for that. We don't judge them for that. But this perspective poses a risk of technology misuse, potentially leading to environmental harm instead of sustainability. We've been equipping them with these technologies. However, if they decide to focus on the commodities that we can get from mangrove forests and the oceans, that need-based approach can eventually become a profit-based approach, and this could potentially harm the environment. So to address this, we're expanding our data collection for alinmango through a citizen science training nationwide. But this initiative, apart from collecting more on-the-ground data to help increase the accuracy of our alinmango algorithm, we also wanted to serve another purpose, which is to shift the environmental mindset of coastal communities from commodity-focused to conservation-focused. We're very hopeful that this would be successful. Of course, embarking on a human-centric approach in research and innovation presents its own share of challenges, especially when dealing with communities whose perspectives may differ from scientific objectives. One notable hurdle is the resistance or skepticism towards new technologies and interventions, particularly among marginalized groups reliant on traditional practices. And then it also doesn't help that I'm a woman in a very conservative country working at a male-dominated field, which meant that almost all the time, whenever we visit the coastal communities that we go to, if it's our first time, a lot of them would prefer talking to my male research associates than to me. I've heard questions ranging from what are you doing here? Why aren't you at home? Why aren't you taking care of children? Wouldn't it be nicer if you just stayed at home, and so on? And then also having to grit your teeth, be patient and be kind in answering those questions, because it also serves to show them that women do have a place in research, women do have a place in aquaculture, and that the inputs that we share to these communities are valuable and valid. Now, additionally, achieving meaningful community engagement requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of resources and also cultural sensitivity, which may pose logistical and financial constraints that our funding agencies might not be used to. However, despite these difficulties, adopting a human-centric approach, at least in our perspective, yields substantial benefits that outweigh these challenges. the success stories of initiatives like with the Eva Aitas, with Krabby Fire, with Alinmango, exemplify these advantages. When we place the needs and perspectives of the people that we want to help, of the indigenous peoples, our fishers, our farmers at the forefront, we can see greater impact. For example, in the case of Krabby Fire, since it was the crab farmers who described their problem with to us, and we enjoined them in doing the research, Krabby Fire has not only enhanced their income, but has also promoted sustainable resource use. Similarly, Alinmango's focus on training citizen scientists has not only expanded our data collection efforts at a lower cost, but has also fostered a shift towards conservation-oriented perspectives among coastal communities, especially among the youth. Now, human-centric research and innovation prioritize the well-being and the empowerment of communities, leading to more impactful and sustainable outcomes. When we actively involve stakeholders in the research process, we build trust, we build ownership and resilience within communities, and we foster long-term positive changes. These initiatives contribute to social equity by addressing the needs of marginalized groups and also empowering them to participate in decision-making processes. It makes them feel less like they have no choice. So what's next for CrabTech Innovations? What's next for my team? Well, right now my lab is learning. We're pivoting and growing as a research group, but also as an aquatech startup. Naysayers are saying that the mangrove crab industry is too disorganized, especially for the new innovations that we're creating. Like we're hoping to standardize the packaging system of crablets that are being traded to minimize losses. And we're also hoping to create an automated sorting system for size and species of mangrove crab juveniles. But some people who hear us when we talk about these proposals, these projects, believe that the local industries might not be ready, our local industries might be too poor to accept such kinds of innovations. And I have to admit, I see a little bit of truth in that, especially if we follow the traditional models of success for entrepreneurship, what we like to call the Silicon Valley approach. But for me, I think that the social entrepreneurship model is better suited for startups involving fishers and farmers compared to the Silicon Valley approach, because it prioritizes community-centric solutions, long-term impact, and shared value creation. By directly engaging with our stakeholders, social enterprises can develop culturally sensitive and locally relevant innovations that address the specific needs and challenges of fishers and farmers. So this approach fosters inclusive growth. It fosters resilience and empowerment within communities, which leads to a more sustainable and impactful outcome. At the heart of social entrepreneurship is empathy. It's what allows us to create a new world. It's what allows us to solve problems and help people. It's what allows us to veer away from thoughts of maximizing profits, but about allowing equity, about maximizing social impact. So those are the words of one of my role models, Muhammad Yunus. And for me, it's a business model that focuses on the needs of the people and also in creating equitable states without sacrificing financial sustainability. And I guess to close this morning's talk, I don't really want to talk too much because I want this to be a discussion. I think we can apply the same principles and the same thoughts to research and innovation as well. So thank you very much to everyone for listening to my short presentation for this morning. But I guess before I go, just a quick commercial break. Ria and our organizers have mentioned that I'm the creator of the science channel She and Sha. And actually right now, we're on the last month of our fundraising for the She and Sha thesis grant, which aims to raise 55,000 pesos to help at least one female student who's studying STEM with the costs of her thesis. Right now, in the Philippines and perhaps in different parts of the world as well, it's very difficult for senior high school students and undergraduate students to find grants just for their thesis. Most of the grants available are already for scholars, and yet a lot of people still need help. So we're starting this initiative, which we hope will happen yearly, um, to help support the next generation of women in STEM. So any amount of donation will be very much appreciated. You can scan the QR code to send some help, but you can also send me an email or a message so that we can discuss how more you can assist with this venture. So once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chanan or Dr. Camille, for that very inspiring and very impressive presentation, especially that the Krabby Fire was able to increase the sales by 20%. It means that your research was translated into actual benefit. All right. Now we will proceed with our question and answer portion. I would like to call on my co-host, Professor Katin Aviso, to lead us in our Q&A session.
You so much, Ria, and thank you, Chona, for that very inspiring talk. So it was really very interesting. Again, I'd like to encourage our participants to type in the Q&A box any questions that you might have, or if you want, you can raise your hand if you have a question you'd like to direct to our speaker. But we do have two questions in the Q&A box. So let's begin with the first one. This one comes from Gabrielle Angela Rubia. So considering the significance of citizen science in your work, how can citizen science initiatives empower local communities to actively participate in monitoring and managing their natural resources for long-term sustainability?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Um, right now, citizen science initiatives in the country are few and far apart, but a lot of the impacts that they've created are quite interesting. For example, right now I'm also the coordinator of the Brother Alfred Shields Marine Station in Lian, Batangas, which is part of the Brother Alfred Shields Ocean Research Center or SHORE. Um, Perhaps one of our activities is one of the biggest, has created the biggest, one of the biggest networks of citizen scientists in our country, where we train fishers, hobbyists, free diving hobbyists, and local communities to monitor their coral reefs. So we've simplified the system in such that the only things you need would be a pair of goggles, even just makeshift fins, um, a tripod or a monopod that's made up of PVC pipes. And I guess the most expensive material that you need is a camera that's able to take pictures underwater. But right now, there's a lot of very low cost alternatives to that. And what we do is that every year, at least twice a year, we take pictures of specific portions of the reef so that we can monitor coral cover, check for bleaching, check for diseases, and so on. And it's quite exciting because not many people know that the Philippines is the center of marine biodiversity. We have the highest number of species of fish and corals all over the world. And this is such a huge gift, but it's also such a huge responsibility. And so having more people on the ground, well, I guess more people on the ocean would definitely help us manage this resource well. So what we've seen is that, for example, a local community that we've been helping in Lian has shifted from the saltwater aquarium trade, which was damaging the local reef, into more sustainable fisheries methods. We've also seen a decrease in dynamite fishing that has been going on for a long time. And one of the more dramatic things that we've experienced is that in certain portions of the Philippines, some fishers would actually kill dolphins because dolphins would eat the fish and steal the fish from our fishers. We've seen disturbing photos that broke our hearts. It drove us to tears. But after several years of participation in citizen science, these local communities have now formed a healthier relationship with their neighboring dolphin communities, which was quite inspiring. Now, in the case of the efforts that we've been doing for mangrove crab farmers, most of the farms that we're working with are very excited because they are starting to see the positive impacts of sustainable resource acquisition. However, we're still afraid of how some people can use our app, can use our technologies to still over harvest and overstock with greater demands, particularly in the export section. And that's why we want to continue being in touch with our local communities so that we can continue the emphasis towards a more conservation or sustainable approach rather than fall into the profit-based systems. So I hope my answer has helped, Gabriel. So thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Chona. No? Just to add on to the question, in addition to the equipment that you provide the communities, what kind of training do they need to undergo so that they can adapt more easily to these technologies and
We usually spend 1 to 3 days for the training activities. So this often involves a series of short lectures and then hands-on activities, both as a simulation and on the site. Um, and then every year, we do a retooling wherein we revisit the communities. We ask some of our former participants to join, but this time also as fellow speakers as we train the next generation of citizen scientists. Um, Working with schools has actually been very beneficial for us. So another one of our citizen science efforts, which is called the hashtag, because it's Gen Z, the hashtag Eco Squad Goals initiative about characterizing different types of plastic waste. We're working with senior high school faculty and also with school organizations, environmental organizations, who are interested in trying to figure out the different types of plastics that we're producing and that are polluting our bodies of water so that we can provide information that's relevant to the investments that we need to make to improve the recycling facilities and waste management facilities in the Philippines better. So here, some of our partner schools have incorporated that into their syllabus, into the lessons that they teach the students. And that's why even though we might not have the funds to visit these locations on a yearly basis, the training for Eco Squad goals continue. So that's also one of the things we've experienced.
thanks. There's another question also from Gabriel. So, what opportunities exist for scaling up and replicating successful models of human-centric technological innovations in sustainable food production to benefit the communities worldwide?
Okay, I mentioned earlier that we're funded by DOSTP CAARD. DOSTP CAARD has a lot of grants available if the research that you're doing are among the commodities that supply food to our country. But apart from that, one of uh, our newest project is funded by Conservation International Ventures. I was able to meet them when I was doing a training on entrepreneurship with Hatch Singapore in Bali. And they also have funding opportunities to help promote sustainable food production. Um, I think USAID is another possible grant giving body. But if you're ready to scale it up and become a startup, um, as a Quezon City resident, the Office of the Mayor has startup opportunities geared towards women. They provide a 1 million peso grant that will allow you to register your business and start your company. But the Philippine government also has a startup portal, startup.gov.ph, where you can investigate different sources of funding, and also perhaps um, look for trainings or workshops that can help with this next adventure. So yeah, thank you.
Okay. Ria, do you have anything to ask or add?
Um, well, I just noticed that um, an part of the audience is asking for your email address. It seems they want to connect with you regarding one of the topics. And then I have a question on the hottest issue right now on golden rice being stopped. Unfortunately, it will decrease the production and cause starvation. Uh, in your experience, you were able to connect with people through science communication. Any recommendations on how we can convince our leaders regarding the benefits of science?
Ooh, that's a very hard
Universe,
question,
Miss
Ria.
Universe, Miss
I
Universe
Universe
question.
know
question.
it's a Miss Universe question. We have to be prepared as scientists, as researchers, to appear more human to the general public. Whenever they encounter scientists, more often than not, they would say, "Ah, genius, smart person," and then when we start talking, they would feel as if we're belittling them, even though we 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 watch out for our language, we try to be gentle and nice, but it's that perception that when you're called a scientist, you're smart, you think you're smarter than everybody else. And therefore, anything that comes out of your mouth is something people should be defensive about. But I've noticed that when it comes to citizen science, we've shifted our approach a little bit, that instead of introducing ourselves as scientists, we tell them we're students. I mean, I've not been a student for a long time, but technically I am a lifelong learner. I'm a student of nature. So when we come into local communities as students, it changes how they view us, from people who are there to tell them what to do to people who are there to learn from them, and maybe also create a better way of doing things that they've been doing for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So a humbler approach to communicating with people would definitely be useful. Showing them that we're not necessarily geniuses would be definitely useful. But we need a lot of help. We need a lot of help from mainstream media to showcase more of our rock star scientists. We need training on how to shift our language from being very formal to a little bit more casual. Um, there's a lot of work that we need to do, but um, I think the science communication community in the Philippines is definitely growing, and I'm very excited to see where it goes within the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you. Amazing tip. I will try to do that. Okay, Dr.
Okay, thank
Kim,
you so
let's
much.
proceed with the next.
Yeah, there's actually a question from Noy Maralit, who is the executive director of the University Sustainability Office. So he's asking whether your academic department has considered including citizen science as a curricular offering, or maybe as an elective or even a minor.
Thank you for that, Sir Noy, and for the opportunity to promote something that the Ecology PLC is actually cooking up. So right now we're actually in the process of designing at least 3 new courses that we're hoping that it could be part of either a minor program from the College of Science or cognates that people can enroll in from different colleges in the university. And these subjects have no prerequisites, meaning you can be from the College of Education, you can be from the College of Liberal Arts, you can be from the College of Engineering, and you can go ahead and take these courses. So one of these courses is on citizen science approach for um, the conservation and monitoring of coastal ecosystems. Another one is in the creation of policies that would help also our coastal ecosystems, mostly because our expertise are geared towards that. And then we're also creating, this one is very close to my heart, a course on science literacy and science communication. So we're hoping to build that, build a version of that. That's what we call guerrilla style. So even though you don't have a lot of equipment at home, how can you make videos, content, press kits, and all of that that could help communicate science to a general public? So those are the things that we're cooking up that are hopefully ready for deployment within the next 1 to 2 years. Sir Al might sakal me if he's for announcing this too early, but yeah, we're very, very excited about it.
Okay, thank you, Chona. We'll be looking forward to that. There are actually a couple more questions. Another one from Gabriel and another one in the chat. But let's give chance to someone else. So this one comes from Darwin. Hopefully, yeah. Can we take this as the last question? Then maybe you can type an answer for what Gabriel has in the Q&A. Um, so he said that in their area in Bicol, the collection and harvesting of the fly-sized crablets is still rampant despite the existing laws and ordinances banning the practice. So the question is, what citizen science strategy can be implemented to help the community understand the importance of conservation and management of crab populations?
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you so much for asking that, Darwin. That's actually one of the biggest controversies when it comes to the mangrove crab trade and culture in the Philippines. So there's this ordinance that's preventing our mangrove crab catchers from trading that langaw-langaw, the fly size um, crabs, because um, there were previous data that suggests that capturing the fly size crablets are harmful to the mangrove ecosystem. However, our focus group discussions with other communities, including SEAFDEC, the Southeast Asian Fisheries Development Center, has shown that since crabs reproduce in a way wherein they produce a lot of babies and then only a few survive, the younger the developmental stage that you capture and you grow, the higher the chances of yield and the less the environmental impact. And there are a lot of traders that are saying that if you get the fly size crablets, there's actually greater productivity and possibly lesser environmental damage if you're collecting them right. So far, the argument really is don't do that, because when you capture them using the traditional practices of trolling, you're destroying a lot of things. But we've seen certain places, such as in Gubat, Sorsogon, where they capture the fly-sized crablets in a more sustainable manner. They capture them, they lay out the net, a very passive net on the side, and they would pick out the fly-sized crablets one by one, touch them to their tongues, and if the crab bites them, that would be a mangrove crab. If the crab doesn't bite them, then that's the blue swimming crab, and they would throw them out. We're actually very interested in testing the accuracy of this method, because that's also one of the passions of my team. And so this has minimal impact to the environment. And if we do verify that trading the fly size crablets is more sustainable, then we can vouch for the repealing of this policy. So we were in talks with the Bureau of Fisheries and SEAFDEC to see if we can do further research on this practice. Um, but right now, it's really difficult to push people away from what they're used to traditionally. It requires a lot of patience and giving them feasible alternatives in order for them to shift away from what they're trying to do. So we also have to be kind to ourselves and realize that this is our limitation, but with consistent insistence, eventually you will see change. So yun po. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shona. I can see a lot of interest from our audience. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today. Shona, if you don't mind sharing your email address to our participants, so kindly just type it in our chat box. So thank you. I think this was a very interesting and really engaging talk. And I know that a lot of you would want to learn more about the projects of Shona. So I think she has shared her email address. So please feel free to communicate with her and ask her for more details. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this morning. Thank you once again, Shona, for accepting our invitation and giving this lecture. Perhaps we'll invite you again in the future. So for our participants, please give us your feedback by going to the link as indicated here or by scanning the QR code found on this presentation. So with that, happy Wednesday, everyone. And enjoy the rest of the day and hope to see you in our next lecture. I'll just be sending an email for updates. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Chona.
Thank you, Ria. Thank you,
Thank
Chona.
Thank
you,
you.
Doc Kay.
Thank you, Doc Kay. Thank you, Ria. Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Doc Kay, log out na ako.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
sige.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.